Imagine your company's legal department marching right into the CEO's office and saying, well, basically saying, we cannot launch this new product.
Right. It violates compliance or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. They say it violates a dozen laws. What happens next? I mean, the project just dies instantly, right?
Oh, yeah. No questions asked. The launch is completely scrapped.
Completely. But now imagine your cybersecurity chief having that exact same, like, unquestioned veto power over a multi-million-dollar business initiative.
Which is pretty rare, historically.
It is. But if they don't have that power right now, the sources we're diving into today suggest your company might not actually survive the decade.
It's a really jarring shift in corporate power dynamics, honestly.
Totally.
Because we're looking at a landscape where the stakes have escalated so wildly. Just in the last 5 years alone, the traditional IT hierarchy is, well, it's completely breaking down under the pressure.
Yeah, the pressure is immense. And we're pulling all this insight from a really compelling interview we've been looking at.
Right, the one between David Fernández Granado and Pablo Vera.
Exactly. So David is the general director of Cypher, which is Prosegur's cybersecurity unit. And Pablo is the regional VP of Iberia at Zscaler.
Two very heavy hitters in the space.
For sure. So our mission for this deep dive is to unpack the sheer chaos of the current cyber market. We're going to look at the trap of single vendor consolidation and how defenders are actually managing to secure industrial hardware that they aren't even legally allowed to touch.
Which is fascinating.
Yeah.
But setting the stage with Prosegur is crucial here, I think, because their underlying philosophy kind of frames this entire discussion.
Right, because most people know them for physical security, right?
Yeah, exactly. Armored trucks, security guards, residential alarms, that sort of thing. But their stated overarching mission is literally making the world a safer place.
And that's not just limited to the physical realm anymore.
No, not at all. Cypher is basically their digital shield.
Mm-hmm.
And they aren't some recent startup pivoting to chase a new trend. They've actually been building managed security services since 2002. They originally set up shop in Brazil and the US long before cyber was like front page news every day.
Wow, 2002. So they've seen the whole evolution, which gives them this massive historical lens to look through.
Exactly.
And through that lens, they're calling the broader cybersecurity industry over the last few years highly disorganized, which I wanted to pause on that for a second.
Okay, sure.
Because isn't that disorganization just a byproduct of raw innovation? I mean, early cyber pioneers were basically self-taught artists.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
They were hackers in the truest sense, right? Like brilliant, creative people figuring things out without a manual.
Yeah.
So if we force this entire field to get, formal government certificates and corporate accreditations, aren't we just going to kill the creativity that built the industry?
Well, you're hitting on a massive philosophical debate within the industry right now.
Uh-huh.
There is this real tension between the art of hacking and the engineering of enterprise defense.
Right.
But the source uses a really great contrast between digital and physical security to explain why that Wild West era basically has to end.
Oh, how so?
So think about physical security. You can't just put on a high-vis vest and declare yourself a professional security guard protecting a bank.
Right. I mean, I hope not.
Right. In many European countries, you actually need Ministry of the Interior accreditation. You have to be formally vetted.
Because lives and critical assets are on the line.
Precisely. And the argument here is that cyber has crossed that exact same threshold.
It's no longer just about protecting, like, an embarrassing email leak.
No, it's about protecting the power grid. It's protecting hospitals. The GarageBand era was totally necessary for inventing the tools, but we're now playing in a symphony orchestra protecting critical infrastructure, financial markets, human life.
You need sheet music. You need a conductor.
Yes. And this ties right back to that opening scenario you mentioned about the CISO.
The Chief Information Security Officer.
Right. The CISO's role is undergoing a massive evolution. They're elevating directly to the C-suite, especially in the U.S. market right now.
So they can no longer just be the smartest technical person hiding in the server room.
Exactly. They need elite business management skills. They need an understanding of complex risk models. And crucially, they need that absolute legal department level veto authority.
But, I mean, giving a CISO the power to hit the emergency brake requires a board of directors to fundamentally change how they view operational risk, doesn't it?
It really does. It's a huge cultural shift.
Because usually the pressure is purely on speed to market. Historically, the CISO is viewed as the Department of No.
Right, which is why the modern CISO has to be able to translate technical vulnerabilities into actual business risk. If they can't do that, the board won't listen.
And one of the biggest business risks the sources point out right now is how companies are actually buying their security infrastructure.
Oh, the vendor lock-in trap.
Yes, the drive for consolidation. I mean, the logic seems bulletproof if you just look at a spreadsheet.
It always does on a spreadsheet.
Right. You go to a single massive provider, you get a bundled discount, you simplify your billing, and your security team only has one pane of glass to look at.
Yeah, it looks fantastic on a quarterly budget report, but it's the equivalent of building a massive deep-water cargo ship with a single, uncompartmentalized hull just to save on steel.
Wow. Okay.
Sure, it's cheaper and faster to build, but if you hit a reef and brutes the hull anywhere, the entire ship goes down.
Because there's nothing to stop the water.
Exactly. When you consolidate all your network defense into one vendor, a single error by that vendor can cause a catastrophic blackout.
Right. If they push a bad software update or if a zero-day vulnerability is found in their code, you are instantly blind, defenseless across your entire organization.
Which is exactly why the sources advocate so heavily for defense in depth. You really need specialized layered providers.
So if one layer fails, another catches it.
Right. If the primary perimeter fails, the internal behavioral analytics layer catches the anomaly. If that fails, the endpoint protection stops the execution.
But the push for consolidation is actually being worsened right now by what the sources describe as a doped market.
Yeah, doped is a great word for it. It's the private equity and venture capital influence.
So how is that warping things?
Well, you have these massive investment funds driving really aggressive corporate acquisitions. They buy up specialized cyber firms with the strict intention of flipping them in a 5-year cycle.
Ah, so if you're a CISO and you just spent 18 months integrating this highly specialized threat hunting tool into your network.
And suddenly that tool gets acquired by a massive conglomerate.
Right, a conglomerate looking to cut R&D and boost short-term margins. Your entire security roadmap is completely derailed.
It creates immense instability in the market. And we have to view this instability through a geopolitical lens, too.
Which the sources are very pragmatic about.
They are. We're operating in an environment where state-sponsored threat groups are actively compromising supply chains.
Attempting to influence elections, probing critical infrastructure, all of it.
Exactly. And Europe in particular is really waking up to the need for technological sovereignty right now.
Because you cannot rely on a single fragile vendor or a doped market when the adversary has the resources of a literal nation state.
You just can't. The math doesn't work.
But it's one thing when a software vendor leaves your cloud data blind. What happens when that vulnerability isn't in a dashboard, but, I don't know, in a physical robotic arm on a factory floor?
Oh, this is the IT to OT shift.
Yes. This brings us to one of the wildest parts of the interview for me, securing untouchable hardware, the industrial Internet of Things.
Right, operational technology. We are talking about manufacturing robots, massive chemical pressure valves, power grid sensors.
And my immediate reaction to this problem was, well, why not just patch them?
Right, just run an update.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if Apple finds a 0-day in iOS, they push an update to 1 billion phones overnight. So if there is a vulnerability in a factory's machine, just push a firmware update.
It makes sense logically. But David Fernández Granado brings his background as an industrial engineer into the conversation to explain exactly why you absolutely can't do that.
Okay, lay it on me.
So these machines use PLCs, programmable logic controllers. They are not running standard operating systems like Windows or Mac OS.
Right, they're super specific.
Highly specialized deterministic environments. They operate in milliseconds. If you try to force a modern software agent onto a legacy industrial machine, you'll likely just crash the machine.
Oh, wow.
And worse, you will instantly void the manufacturer's warranty.
Right, the source dropped a great joke about this, the General Electric 5G problem.
Yeah, that was brilliant.
Meaning, if you tinker with an industrial turbine and break the warranty, the manufacturer is going to charge you for a 5G data plan.
No.
They're going to charge you 5Gs, as in $5,000 or probably way more, just to send a technician out to look at it.
The financial penalty is huge.
Yeah.
But the operational penalty is honestly much worse.
How so?
Think about it. If an HR database gets breached, you face fines, data loss, reputational damage.
Mm-hmm.
It's a crisis, sure, an IT crisis.
Yeah.
But if an OT environment is breached and a threat actor gains control of the cooling systems in a pharmaceutical plant, you cross the line from data privacy into physical safety.
Human lives are at risk.
Exactly. You cannot just reload a power plant to install a software patch on a Tuesday afternoon.
So you have these critical, highly vulnerable machines that you literally cannot touch, cannot update, and cannot take offline.
Right.
How on earth do you defend them?
You don't touch the machine. You alter how it communicates with the outside world.
Okay.
The sources highlight Zscaler's zSIM technology as the workaround here. Instead of trying to install an agent on a fragile operating system, you use a highly specialized SIM card for its connectivity.
So you're bypassing the hardware vulnerability entirely.
Exactly. The zSIM acts as what they call a compensatory control.
Yeah.
It sits at the cellular level, authenticates the device, completely encrypts the traffic, and routes it directly into Zscaler's global cloud.
Which is massive.
Oh, yeah. It runs across something like 160 data centers. So it essentially creates this zero-trust, invisible tunnel around the machine's communications, all without ever touching the manufacturer's code.
That is a brilliant mechanism. I mean, if a compromised laptop gets plugged into the factory network, it can't move laterally to the robotic arm because the arm is only talking through this encrypted cellular tunnel.
Right, directly to the cloud, exactly.
But listening to this, I mean, massive cloud routing, specialized SIMs, layered enterprise defense, this all sounds incredibly expensive.
And that is the harsh reality for SMEs right now.
Small and medium enterprises.
Yes. They are facing the exact same automated, state-sponsored ransomware campaigns as massive multinational corporations.
But they don't have the budget of a multinational corporation.
Not even close.
Yeah.
And they have zero ability to retain elite cyber talent.
They really are the soft underbelly of the global supply chain, aren't they?
And the threat actors know it. You don't hack the prime defense contractor. You hack the local HVAC vendor that services their building.
Right. But the sources detail a massive shift happening right now, driven by the incoming NIS2 directive in Europe.
Yeah, NIS2 is essentially acting as the forcing function here. It mandates supply chain accountability.
Meaning if you're a massive enterprise, you can actually be held liable if your small third-party vendor gets breached and compromises your network.
Right. So the enterprise essentially forces the SME to upgrade their security or they lose the contract.
It's the ultimate stick.
It really is.
Yeah.
But if the SME can't afford the talent, how do they actually comply?
Right. That's the million-dollar question. And this is where the sources introduce the glocal model, global plus local.
Yes, powered by XMDR platforms.
Extended managed detection and response.
Exactly.
But let's look at the actual mechanism of how this solves the SME talent shortage, because the interview notes that Cypher took their platform to the U.S. market specifically to compete in what they called the Champions League of cybersecurity.
Which is a great analogy. They forced their technology into those hostile competitive threat landscape in the world just to harden it.
Trial by fire.
And what they built isn't just an outsourcing service. The XMDR platform integrates advanced telemetry. It pulls data from endpoints, network firewalls, identity providers, and it runs it all through automated playbooks.
So instead of like a junior analyst manually clicking through thousands of routine alerts to see if an IP address is malicious, the platform does the correlation instantly.
Yes. It filters out the noise. It isolates the actual confirmed threats.
Oh, wow.
By amplifying the human talent with this architecture, a single skilled analyst can effectively do the work of 10 or 20 people using legacy methods.
So the efficiency scales up, which obviously drives the operational cost way down.
Exactly. Which means the provider can pass those enterprise-grade capabilities down to the SME at a price point they can actually afford.
That's huge. Suddenly, the small local manufacturer has access to the same threat intelligence and response capabilities as a Fortune 500 company.
And this ties right back to the glocal concept.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about hooking an SME up to a massive global satellite like Zscaler and walking away.
Right, you need a local meteorologist, basically.
Yeah, I like that. The provider keeps local analysts who actually understand the regional client.
Because that local context is everything, right?
It really is. An analyst sitting at a massive hub halfway across the world might see an anomalous login at 3 a.m. and flag it as a critical breach.
Oh, but a local analyst in Iberia knows that the specific SME just has a night shift.
Right. Or they understand the nuances of the local regulatory environment. Or they simply speak the native language of the IT manager. They need to wake up in the middle of the night.
That makes total sense. You need the global tech, but the interpretation and the response really have to be grounded in local reality.
Absolutely.
But wait, I have a thought here. If the XMDR playbooks are correlating the data, filtering the noise, and doing the work of 20 analysts, aren't we just on a fast track to AI replacing the human defenders entirely?
Well,
I mean, if the platform is that smart, why keep the human in the loop at all?
It's the natural fear with any automation, obviously. But the experts frame the reality of AI in cyber defense very, very differently.
Oh,
They use this fantastic concept in the interview, the Rincon del Vago,
this slacker's corner.
Slacker's Corner.
Yeah.
The premise isn't that AI is replacing the genius or the strategic intuition of the human analyst.
Right.
Instead, AI is being assigned to the Slacker's Corner. It is being fed all the incredibly tedious, repetitive, soul-crushing tasks that human analysts absolutely hate doing.
Like what? Parsing millions of DNS requests looking for anomalous beacons.
Exactly, filtering false positive alerts.
It's basically the digital equivalent of filing paperwork in a windowless basement.
That's exactly what it is. And by offloading that massive volume of low-level noise to the AI, you free up the human mind to focus entirely on complex problem solving.
So understanding the motivation behind an attack, strategizing the containment.
Precisely. And the sources note that players like Zscaler have actually been integrating machine learning into their platform since 2018.
Wow, so way before the current AI hype cycle.
Way before. It's not some post-ChatGPT novelty for them. It has been a structural necessity just to match the unimaginable scale and speed of modern threats.
That is fascinating. So to pull all these threads together on everything David and Pablo mapped out, we are watching an industry transition from a fragmented, self-taught art form into a highly regulated, business-critical service.
A completely necessary evolution.
Yeah. It's no longer about buying a piece of software and forgetting about it. It requires defense in depth, hardware workarounds like zSIM for physical machinery, and platforms that give SMEs a fighting chance through that global approach.
And, the convergence of IT and OT means this isn't just an abstract data problem anymore. The security of the digital layer is now the primary mechanism protecting the actual physical spaces we inhabit.
It affects everything. Whether you run a small business bracing for NIS2 or you just work in a building with connected security cameras, this stuff matters to you.
It touches everyone.
Which brings me to a final thought on that AI in the Slacker's Corner concept.
If the defenders are using AI to parse logs, automate playbooks, and filter noise at light speed, the attackers are undoubtedly using their own AI to write polymorphic malware, discover 0 days, and launch automated phishing campaigns at the exact same speed, right?
Oh, absolutely. That's a given.
So are we rapidly approaching a reality where the front line of cybersecurity is simply two artificial intelligences fighting a high-speed, invisible war in the background while the humans just sit back and watch the scoreboard?
It's a terrifying thought.
It really is. Something for all of you listening to ponder the next time you just assume your network is safe. Keep your defenses deep, and we'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.